Alright, welcome back. We're going to install the Draw Tite. I'll get you the model number in just a second. Hitch onto the back of a 2010 Suburban 2500. It's the GMT900 series model. So this hitch is actually designed for the previous 2006 models, but since they didn't make one for this one, this will fit. I saw some pictures online. I'll have to trim up this rear bumper here a bunch, but the mounting points are still the same up in there. So I got to take all the bolts out, and I have to drill a couple new holes pretty far down there. I removed the spare tire already. Yes, it's shiny black. I just did the lanolin fluid film undercoating in black this past week, so that's why it's shiny. I'm sure it'll make this job kind of sticky and gross, but I needed that to prevent any further rusting of this vehicle. So anyway, stay tuned. I'll try and walk you through with as many visuals as I possibly can the process. So I believe it's these last two bolts here, there and there. Same on this side over here, there and there, and then with the drill holes that go down there further, because this thing reaches pretty far forward in the frame. So stay tuned. To confirm, it is the Draw Tite 41930, made in Mexico. Picked it up through AutoZone for, I don't know, 170 bucks. Delivery included. So we'll open up packaging here without trying to cut the paint. I'll attach a picture of how this thing was packaged inside this giant box, but it wasn't pretty. Interesting parts here. So, this white one's the installation instructions, I hope. Okay, looks a little better. Okay. It does show what hardware is used. Shoot till 6 bolts in here. So, alright, well, I'll get back to it as I figure it out. Oh, you've got to kid me. See it welded in there? You've got to be kidding me. That bolt that welded nut in the backside just moved. Oh! No stinking way. No. Try the other side while I'm down here. See, this is. I got that one out super hot. That side, that nut stayed intact. This one, oh, it's a hard one to get to. How am I going to get to this thing? There's this canister filter up here, all hooked in. You gotta be kidding me. I didn't get anything there to even... Oh, wish I never bought this stinking truck. I gotta work the other one out going back and forth. I didn't record it, but there's that one that came out. A quick update, I can't get that bolt off. The canister filter's in the way there. In order to get the canister filter off, you have to pull the whole bumper out. In order to pull the bumper off, you have to get that bracket out, as far as the metal bumper. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the plastic bumper here. I think I could take my angle grinder in, cut the head of that bolt off, get that nut out, buy a new replacement nut with a lock washer. They'll have to hold in place while it tightens a little bit from the bottom. So I think I could salvage this, but wow, what a pain. So now I'm going to pull this bumper off. I think some 8mm or 7mm on top and along the fender wells. I'll get those off here. Okay, so there's a charcoal canister. There are some bolts that go through on the other side right here, 2 of them. But even if I can get those nuts off, or the bolts off from the inside, it wouldn't be able to slide out because this bumper's here. So, in order to get this whole metal bumper frame out, you'd have to get those 3 bolts out. The one that I'm having trouble with, and then 2 more along the side here. So, all that being said, I'm going to come in. There's the nut right here, the bolt that's the welded nut that broke off inside. I'll take my angle grinder, zip off the bolt, and then get the nut out, hopefully, and then put a new bolted nut in. And while I have this bumper off, I'll probably get some more fluid film and just kind of hit up these spots right here that I didn't see when I redid the bumper on. That's where we're at. Never buy a rusty truck, folks. So, look down here. See, that should not be spinning there. That nut was welded to the frame, but that weld broke. And that's why this is floating around in here like that. So again, if I cut it off from the backside and get a new nut in there, I'm sure I could hold it from up here with a lock washer to get it tightened back onto the new hitch. So not the end of the world, but certainly a pain in the neck. And I've tried, to see the corners of that nut are shiny around it, I've tried putting parts, a piece of metal in between the frame there and this and trying to lock it and torque it off, but it's just rounding that off. So there's nothing I can do except cut it off at this point. All right, good times. And of course, that bracket for the bumper is right in the way of where I'd want to get the angle grinder in there. So, can't get the grinder in there. I tried doing a little sawzall, but that's hardened, probably grade 8-ish bolt, and it just toasted this sawzall blade that I have. I might need to take off that bracket and then re-weld the bracket, this bracket right here, back on later, just so I can get this thing off. What a nightmare. My goodness. I checked the other bolt right here in the front and those came out no problem. Next one's up came out because those were actually threaded right to the frame. There wasn't a welded nut inside, so those 2 came out. So if I can get this one off, then I can put this hitch on there. So that's kind of the big challenge. All right, I'll try and take this also a little slower this time so I don't toast the blade. Okay, it's starting to cut through, it looks like. Just lubed up the saw blade a little bit. Cool off a little bit. Okay, making progress. Making progress. Just gotta get lucky and just pop this sucker off yet. Not yet. Gotta make sure I hit the canister on the far side with the sawzall. halfway through maybe. Blade feels pretty much toast. But it's hanging on there for sure. Let's finish this off with this blade. Ooh, baby's hot. I jammed the nut behind here to hold it in the same location so it wouldn't spin on me when I'm doing the saws on, but obviously I need to rotate that a little bit and stick this tool I have back here, which is just a nut or a bolt. Rotate it around so I can get the opposite side. Take a look. You won't be able to see what I'm doing, but I think I'm making progress. I hope. Okay, here was that. Now, hopefully, okay. And that fell off also. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Yeah. Don't lose in the frames. Let me see if I can work it out of here. Okay. Ooh, it's hot, it's hot, hot. Nope. There is the part that was up in the frame. That's the weld that held that to the frame broke when I was trying to take it out. So, okay, I think I saved it. I think I can get a nut for the new bolts that would have threaded into that welded in nut. It's an M14, and get a good nut and lock washer that I can put up inside the frame. You're not gonna be able to see anything down here. Yeah, that bottom hole right there. And boy, let's focus. Yeah, so I can get a nut inside there. It's a pretty big hole, so I need to get a pretty good sized washer too. Make sure that nut is touching on or resting on real metal, not just this through hole. So anyway, I think I'm going the right direction now. All right, so obviously right here, there's all this rust up here is what stopped this bolt from getting out. I should have worked it out, gone in and out a few times, and it would have come out clean, would have saved myself a lot of the hassle. But aside from this one broke off, I did the other side the same way. I went in and out with the torque wrench, or my impact wrench, until it freed up. So you can see the welds right there. If that's focusing in or not, I'm not sure. They're broken right here. But all that rust up there is what kept this bolt from coming out. Anyway, live and learn, move on with life. Gonna try rigging this thing up. Trying to find a balance point. Just want to get these two bolts right here started, and then I can go from there.
Dad, where's the awful kitty food?
What do I have left?
Because I can't find any. Okay.
Of course, I raised the truck up on some blocks just to get a little more height. or my clearance. I'm sure that'll come back to haunt me right now. Exhaust and that heat shield's kind of in the way a little bit. And I'm out of height, of course. Oh, the amount of height I have this thing blocked up on wheels exactly too. Let's see if I can. Okay, we'll get one bolt on this side over here. And then slide over a little bit. It's got a couple threads in it. Over there. This side over here, obviously, is down further, but hopefully I'm strong enough to lift this up. Get this aligned. Oops, let's go back here. Well, that heat shield's really resisting me, that's for sure. This ain't easy. Okay. Couple more cranks on it, and then I'll pull this jack out and show you what I just did. Okay.
I don't know where that noise coming from.
Yeah, the hitch didn't. I think that's outside the camper, okay?
Okay.
Hitch didn't fall down, so. Alright. What I did, I just put that middle bolt in the forward of the aft two bolts. And obviously this heat shield up here is getting in the way. So I'm gonna do some probably notching of that heat shield, I think. That's something I remember reading about. People installed theirs. So shine some light in here. Not sure how well you can see that, but this heat shield is hitting right here. This thing's got to be pushed all the way up, so if I bend the heat shield much more, the spare tire's not going to fit in. So I may have to notch that heat shield right about there, which is kind of annoying. That's what happens when you don't have, I mean, to stop making a good hitch for these vehicles, for the GMT900, so yeah. Wow. pain in the neck this is. Plus that bolt up on the heat shield might get in the way of this thing bottoming out in the frame. Nobody spoke about this in their online forum talks, that's for sure. Okay, I thought I was recording, but I think I hit the record button. I'm not sure where I left off. So, the heat shield is giving me problems. We're hitting the heat shield right there. I don't mind notching the heat shield, but again, there's a bolt right up that holds the heat shield on right there. And that looks like it's going to be in the way when I try and raise this forward section up to contact the frame. So that bolt may have to come out and not be put back in, which, again, wasn't ever mentioned in anybody else's discussion about this, so what a pain. We'll trip the Tractor Supply, and $9 later for 1.18 pounds of grade 8 bolts. Of course, I got a mix of 1/2 inch and 5/8. I wasn't sure which I was going to use in the hole with the broken nut here. 1/2 inch would fit a little easier as far as fitting in the slots and everything. 5/8 does fit, but it's not as much play there. So hopefully it doesn't come back to bite me as far as everything lining up. There's a reason they're slopping the holes because all the frames are slightly different. But I'm going to try and put a 5/8 bolt in the missing one, mostly due to the head size of the nut. That's going to be a key structural component back there. That second bolt back there is going to be carrying a bit of load. So 1/2 inch would probably be fine. 14 millimeters is the standard size, and 12.5 millimeters in an inch, or in a 1/2 inch, sorry. So 1/2 inch is 12.5 millimeters. So this is slightly larger than a 1/2 inch bolt. And you can see that there, obviously, put that in front. You can see there's black behind it still. Put that there, and you can't see anything behind it. So, you know, I'm going to try and get the 5/8 in there. If I have to back off and do the 1/2 inch, either will be fine for that location, but I'll try and do 5/8. So anyway, got those bolts. I pulled off the nut for the heat shield up in here. Move the heat shield over. So I'll try and get that attached back later somehow. But there was, see this nut right here, this bolt right here was holding the heat shield up there. So I think that's going to be in the way, but I'll figure that out at the end. All right, well, let's see if we can get this thing back up in there and attached. Right now I have this, I'll be a quick job, so I parked the truck kind of halfway in and out so I had more room back here to work. But I need the garage door closed at nighttime, so I need to get this thing finished tonight. And it is already 7:05 p.m. I need to get the kids to bed here soon. So anyway, stay tuned. All right, back at it.
Dad, the robot is not in the storage.
Okay. Fix that later, okay, buddy?
Yeah, but I saw the robot.
There's about 6 more in the jack here, so what the hell? Oh, easier side. Oh, Mike. There. Check some alignments now. I'll try the.
He's at AK and upper end, and most of the kids are coming over to swim.
Okay. Fine.
Okay,
Fine. Okay. 5/8 sits up in there just fine. Nothing but your head. Okay.
What are you doing?
Okay, so what I did is I put that second bolt, which is right about here, in both the sides, and this back here is a gap. This part of this bracket that it goes over top of only goes back this far, so this last bolt will be a gap. So I'll probably put some washers in here just to get that slap. I don't want to try and bend this down or stress the bolt. So I'll put some washers in there to try and span that gap. Up here it's looking pretty good. Obviously it'll get pulled up some, and so I have to drill the hole through here. This is what I was hoping I was going to be 2 hours ago, but instead it's been a fun time fighting rusty stuff. A gift that keeps on giving. So this isn't quite centered over the frame, so I'm going to have to try and... This is the forward mounting location. Sorry, you can't see on this heat shield. Forward mounting location. This one over here is good, right in the center on the driver's side, so I can just drive right through there and be good to go. I did read about this. I'll probably just take a ratchet strap to this part right here and pull it out that way, and then try and stretch it out and get the drawer in the middle there. So that'll be another project for a second from now. All right, time to drill the 1/2-inch holes. See how easy this is. I think my 1/2-inch bit is pretty sharp. I'm going right for it. It says use this as a guide. So we'll see if I need to put a punch in here or what. But for now, we'll just go for it. This one's right in the center, so perfect. Okay, not too bad with my sharp bit. All right, see you later. Yep. I'll give you 2 different size spacers. See if we can get the bigger spacer to fit flat inside there. Clean all the junk up in here. Take some undercoating. Coat it up in here really good. Sprayed this pretty heavy the other day, so. A bigger washer fits inside this frame. I'll put flat washer and the lock washer, then the 1/2-inch nut. Obviously you can't see what's going on here, but to get work this with. It's pretty tight pretty quick. Alright, stay tuned. Alright, looking up at the passenger side rail, I tried one of these little clamps here, pulling it over. It seems like it's almost centered. So the exhaust is in the way, and so is my hand. I feel like it's pretty well centered. Now I gotta pull the exhaust over so I can get my drill up in there as well. I want to scooch over just a tiny little bit. This side, it's pretty well even with the inside. So there's the 1/2-inch nut, lock washer, flame washer, holding that up. Okay, so it should be in a little bit. Yeah, that's good enough right there. I'll just yank the exhaust over a little bit and go drill. Stay tuned. I'm underneath the truck now, so we have 2 of these Irwin quick grips. Not a commercial for them, but wow. One's holding the exhaust to the shackle for the leaf spring. The other one is grabbing this and pulling to the center off the same shackle. Okay, different location. So, yeah, made of plastic, but they're doing pretty good. So we'll start drilling right now. I'm not sure what you're going to see underneath here, but hopefully I won't swallow any metal chips like I did last time. Or not swallow, get them out. So we'll go up here. Okay. Don't know what you saw of that, but the second hole through. Still not fair what I'm gonna do about this heat shield either. But I'm gonna avoid worrying about that right this second. I want to get the undercoating on here first, so there'll be a layer between the metal brackets where it attaches here. But boy, this is a mess. Just snug it up a little bit, and then we'll release the exhaust, release the other one, which didn't move obviously because that was locked in with the new 1/2 inch nut. And give a quick tour. Sorry if you get dizzy here, but there's a new attachment point there. There it is. Sorry about that, took so long to get there. I still have this heat shield here, which that bolt that was under here is definitely hidden now, so I'm probably going to end up putting a sheet metal screw into this cross member that holds up the spare tire jack. I'm just going to put that in there and trim off this end right here, this or just straighten out this curved section right here. Straighten out this guy so it sits flush, and then stick a sheet metal screw right up through here into here. So I'll worry about that later. Right now I want to get this hitch mounted, and so with those bolts tight up front, it's pretty obvious that there's a gap in the back here, right here between the hitch frame and the frame, because this bracket right here has a thickness of what's that, more than 1/8. I'm not sure what gauge that is, but probably 5/16, not quite a quarter, 3/16, sorry. So I'm going to put some washers in here. I don't want this to be smooth as far as not pulling the hitch up this way. I don't want to pull the bumper down, sorry, the frame. So I can get 1 or 2 washers in between here and then tighten that up. Same on the other side. I had a thought, so I figured I would check the level of the old versus the new. See if I wanted to shim the forward edge up, or the forward hole, or the back hole here. So I still have time to do that, but looks like they're pretty much spot on. As far as, obviously the truck's up in the air off blocks too, so it won't be level, but the bubble's in the same spot. So I think I'm going to go with where they are right now. And I'll just put some washers in the back to take out that slop. Alright, stay tuned. Okay, for this side, I ended up using 2 washers above that, 1 flat washer below it to make that straight. The other side, I think I found these extra spacers that came with this kit. Should be able to fit. It wouldn't fit that side as far as thickness, but this is for a 1/2 inch bolt, and I use a 5/8 over there. So this side I'll be using the 14. So I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get this spacer right up in there. Let's loosen that bolt a little bit, and then use that instead of a flat washer. So stay tuned. Alright, so I use that. Here's a spacer over there, and this 14 should fit just through there, I hope. And then be able to grab the threads on the nut that's welded inside the side of the frame still. Put this on very low torque. Okay. The old saying goes, she ain't going anywhere. I'll torque these up to the spec in the manual now. But that's a pretty stout hitch. Let's bring this down, give you a tour, and obviously I'll show you how I cut the bumper later, but for now, just the bolt up front, 2 in the back. These are both the stock bolts with that spacer there. Over here, one's not the stock bolt, the other one is the stock bolt. And up front, if I can find that thing, there it is, another 1/2 inch there. And here's a look at the inside of the hitch, or underneath. It's class 5 with a 2-inch square tube. Okay, I just wanted to point out, here's the instruction manual. The 3/4 chassis, it says for the front bolts to go straight to the frame. It says for all other installations for the vehicles, you put one of the spacers in between the front and the frame. So I guess the frame's a different angle for those other ones. Anyway, I don't know why that is, but I end up using those extra spacers, at least one of them, to fill in the gap that's back here that is not shown. So I'm sure if I had put the spacers up front, it would have maybe closed the gap back here a little bit and not need them back here. So not really sure why they have those different directions. Again, I checked the level and they're both pretty spot on. And if I wanted to remove the washers in the back and then put those washers up front or those spacers up front, I could do that pretty easily. But again, I'm pretty confident this is the way that it's called out. And again, 3/4 ton vehicles right here. It says do not use that spacer. All other vehicles place the spacer between the hitch and the frame. So there it is. And the torque values are 1/2 inch for 75 foot-pounds and the M14 and 5/8 to 115. So I'll torque this up now off camera. All right, it's time to trim this bumper. So I've seen a couple different options online. One where they trimmed it all the way back to here, and the bumper just was sectioned here all the way across, left about 1 inch right here, over to here and down. Another one just took out this section right here in the middle, and the bumper was kind of bent around this. So the bumper wasn't sitting at the right angle here, but it kind of hid the hitch a little better. So I'm going to start by just cutting out the width of the safety chain attachment points here. That's got to be cleared in order to hook up to the right height here, and then try and fit it and see how bad this part poking out of this piece, it'll be sitting like this almost, is going to look. And then I'll decide if I want to just trim it up and over at the same height or not. So anyway, I'm just going to, doesn't have to be exact, eyeball it up, the width there, the width there, and then I'll figure out the height. I'll start obviously lower than I plan to go, and if I have to trim it up more I will, so I'll start down here, just box out this. I'll use my square and make some straight lines here in a second, but that was my starting point, and then we'll line up. I'm not quite sure what tool I'm going to use to cut this yet, so stay tuned. Alright, so I'm going to try first with jigsaw. Try with a thick metal blade to start off with. You can always go to a wood blade. I just figured I don't want to make it too jagged of an edge. So pull that away. This is awkward. I'm not sure what you can see from the angle you're at. Let me move this camera back a little bit. About there. Maybe you see a little more. I'm trying to mess this up. Let's see. Start the inside of this. I always drop for a later. Snappy there. So, obviously I can go a little wider there. I think have it deep enough there. Just see how these parts are kind of pushing out right here. But let's just see how it's kind of hitting right here too. Brackets right here to attach there, so I think we're gonna have to go with option A and cut the whole width of this hitch out. But this bumper doesn't, there's an attachment point right here, this plastic part grabs this bracket right here, and that's got to go in another almost 2 inches. So I don't know how that one guy did it. He had a, it wasn't the Draw Tite, it was the Kurt. So maybe different dimensions. The guy I saw that did this, leaving this on, it was the Kurt hitch. There's no way I'm going to be able to reach up in there or even get this bumper seated. So, So I'm going to have to zip up here high enough to clear that bumper there and then across through this whole section. Not exactly what I wanted to do, but might be what needs to get done. Yeah, it's not even close. And it's got a seat there, so. Measure twice, cut once. May apply here. Measure 3 times. Cut once. Okay, stay tuned. I'm gonna do a little thinking off camera before wasting too much more memory. I'm gonna try something here before I hack too much of it off. I just sawed off. There are 2 tabs, one right here and one on the other side. Must be for, doesn't attach to anything on this truck. Must be for a different truck, maybe a shorter frame top or something where that grabbed some part of the frame. But the only tabs here, the ones on the outside. And before I cut this whole thing, I just want to see if I just tighten up these, seat a couple of these screws home that hold the bumper in, and just see how bad it looks. Because I kind of like the look of that plastic still being down there. Okay, looks like the bumper goes far enough forward. We have clearance and access to here. I should have made these holes a little cleaner now. This cut here. It's still kind of pulling from the bumper a little bit. I could take a heat gun here and just soften it up a little bit. Otherwise I have to cut around this groove here and probably over to here, then down right here. So that'd be, if I don't like this, I can just cut over here, and that would probably give enough clearance for this would slide forward a little bit, and this part would rest against that. So you still have the middle section hidden. But it'd be kind of as awkward. I'd follow this line here and then out and then around that, and then it would go down and the bumper would slide forward more. But as of now, I'll have to make some spacers to go from these tabs that are hanging back here. They're about 1.5 inches from going home. So if I don't cut this, I'll have to make some, probably just, what's that called? That strapping with the holes, and just kind of attach this, or even with some zip ties, just pull that in to hold the bumper against that. And I don't hate it like this. So I don't know if that's going to look better or it's going to look better with it cut straight across. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Okay, so what I decided is for now, I want to try like this for maybe a week or so and see how much I like it or don't like it. So I'm just putting the bumper clips back in. Of course, these plastic ones are pain. So there's 4 screws there. Everything fits pretty good. Just have to over here on the side actually pull that a little bit, obviously, because it's being pulled that way, so it's pulling this in. So it'll still attach. So I'll try attaching it there and then driving like this for a week or so. These takes 2 screws and then 1 screw on each side and then some plastic things. Don't have to go hog wild with these, they're just little metal clips, so really easy. On top and bottom will be plastic clips. Okay, so body line looks fine right there. You see a tiny little gap right here. I just hit it. I thought that was from the stress of bumper just being flexed out a little bit. See it back there. Obviously it's sticking out there. I can obviously cut it again in the future, and I may choose just notch this section out, bring it over this line and then down. But for now, I see a little gap up here. This part of the arm's not pulled all the way in either. Should be in like that. Yeah, I can always heat gun this, but then that'll kind of affect if I cut it later. I'm worried about starting to crack area there, high stress region. Up here again, you'll see this is not pulled in perfect, but you know, screws there are in. And obviously I have these leftover screws which go to the plastic tabs on the bottom of the bumper. I have to I'll zip tie those forward for now. And this bolt right here goes to hold the heat shield up. So I haven't cut the heat shield yet to fit the spare tire back up there yet. It's kind of my last thing to do. But for now, this takes on a short trip in 2 days from now. So I think tonight if I can get the heat shield trimmed and that kind of attached up there and the bumper kind of zip tied, I think we'll be good for our trip. All right, here's the heat shield. So the back of the truck is over here. This is the front part of the hitch frame that goes forward. Obviously the hole that this went into is covered. Right here, the hole is actually right about there in the frame, so I can't get to that anymore. What I'm gonna try and do first is just, before I try bending this straight, I'm gonna try just trimming a little bit right here with some tin snips. And see if I can slip it up a little bit over this frame. It's a little thicker than... Okay. If I get that back up. Hoping I could just sneak it back in there, but the wheel's gonna hit this, I guarantee. So I think I'm gonna have to do more trimming and bending of this part. But the point is, you don't want this exhaust right here to be melting your spare tire, so it's got to be kept on. I'm not gonna take it off, that's for sure, because that would be a bad day if you burned your spare tire while driving on the road. Okay, final product for now. Again, I'll probably end up cutting this bumper a little more to make this bumper sit flush again, but heat shield, that kind of up there, right there. I may stick a sheet metal screw through that section right to the cross member that holds up right there in the middle of the camera there. Just throw a sheet metal screw right through the heat shield and into that cross member that holds up the spare tire. But for now, just gonna take a quick test ride. And these are the tabs back here that aren't lined up with those holes right there. If I cut this bumper right here, it will allow that to relock in there. So again, I probably will end up cutting it, but for now, I'm just gonna let it go for a week or so, see how I like it or dislike it. So anyway, for now, that is a wrap. So if you're ever installing 41930 Draw Tite, this is a class 5 with the 2-inch box on a GMT900 series, 2500 Suburban, then this might be a video that's useful to you. If not, well, sorry it wasn't that great. But anyway, this is me signing off. Take care.